Hello, and welcome to Forefinger, the show where we take a look at various actors, directors, and critics' top 4 on Letterboxd, and we judge them and we decide if they're actually any good or not. I mean, there's a little more going on than just judging them. It's more like I'm gonna watch them and see how I feel about them, I guess, more so than see if I hate or love them. We're going to do something a little more nuanced, I guess. To start things off, I thought that I would talk about my own top 4, which are The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, High Life, Something Wild, and Adaptation. So we're going to start off with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and with that preamble out of the way, let's get to watching. Okay, so The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a 1974 film directed by Tobe Hooper. It stars a bunch of people that I don't know, playing young people, possibly teenagers, who are visiting the grave site of their relatives to see if they've been exhumed, because there have recently been a series of grave robbings that have been perpetrated by someone who then uses the robbed materials from the graves to create these kind of grotesque public displays. The plot of the movie doesn't really matter. Like, when I say that, it might sound like there's some kind of a mystery or some sort of an intrigue to it, which there's really not. It's not that kind of movie. It's not about that. It's a slasher movie. It's about watching a bunch of young people die horrifically. But there's a little more to it than that. It's not really a roller coaster ride. It's not like constant violence. A lot of it is kind of these sustained long shots of bones and dilapidated buildings and roads overrun with forest, or overrun with like overgrowth, I should say, not forest. It's set in Texas, not in the Amazon. But it's essentially about how violent things happen to people, sometimes for no reason, and you just kind of have to deal with it. It's a very nihilistic movie. It's very bleak. The first time I watched this movie in college, I was really kind of overtaken by just the power of the images. The one shot that's pretty popular on Twitter of the woman walking up, and it's a low angle shot of her walking up with the house just looming up over her. Or late in the film, when the final girl is kidnapped by her attempted killers, the camera just zooms in super close on her eyeball, so that you can see like the veins inside of her eye as she twitches and moves like an animal. There are shots in this film that will really kind of stick with you and really haunt you. But ultimately, watching it again this time, I was kind of overtaken by just the sheer nihilism of it, by the sheer kind of cruelty of it. I had a much harder time getting through it. I don't think that I hated it the way that Roger Ebert hates this movie, but watching it again this time, it felt less like a cursed object and more like a movie that was made by a filmmaker who wanted to make an exploitation film, which is what it is. And so I'm a little more sour on it now. But the ending, which left me ecstatic the first time I saw it, is still just as affecting, just as powerful. The final 2 minutes or so of the movie are utterly incredible. I'd recommend this movie to anyone who's interested in horror as a genre, anyone who likes slasher films and hasn't seen it yet. I'd definitely say check it out. But to anyone who's a little agnostic about that genre, I don't think that this will win you over. I don't think that it's going to change your mind on whether or not a slasher movie can be art. But I love the sound design of it. I love the way that the radio is constantly going. The characters are talking, but none of their dialogue actually matters. It's all just kind of like animal noise. Overall, I still really like this movie, and I think that it's a successful film, but I don't think it's going to make it to my top 4 again. I think I'm going to change it for something, maybe a P.T. Anderson movie like The Master, or maybe a Wes Anderson movie, or something that I have more of a heartfelt connection to rather than a visceral gut reaction to. The next movie we're going to be talking about is High Life. So stay tuned for High Life. That's a movie I've seen a few times now and am looking forward to seeing again. It'll be a pleasure to watch it again. So High Life is a 2018 film directed by Claire Denis, starring Robert Pattinson, Juliette Binoche, and Mia Goth. The film is about a spaceship of prisoners who have chosen to participate in a scientific experiment rather than remain on death row. They are traveling to deep space to examine a black hole. The film is existential. It's about what it means to be human and uses space as a backdrop for that, similar to something like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think everyone has a favorite science fiction movie that does this. For some people it's Stalker, for some people it's 2001. For me it's High Life. I just think that this movie is able to depict what it means to be human, what it means to live in a society, what it means to participate with other people, and when that fails, what can happen. And I just love what the movie is able to do with pacing and tone. It's non-linear. It starts out with Robert Pattinson with a baby, and you see that everyone else on the ship is now dead. And the rest of the movie is about you finding out how that happened. How did the baby come to be? How did everyone die? That's basically what the film's about. In some ways, thinking about it in comparison to Texas Chainsaw, would they make a good double feature? I don't think so. But I do think that both of them are kind of slasher movies. You know, this movie is one that sets up that everyone is dead. In some regards it has that, but the death isn't thrilling. It's mostly just kind of depressing and sad and violent. But also, speaking about some of its tonal detours, the film has these like guitar sequences throughout it. It's hard for me to describe without spoiling, but there's various moments in which the score really kicks in and you just kind of sit back and watch as something insane happens on screen. There's one sequence like this with Juliette Binoche and another with Mia Goth, and both of them are fantastic. It's a good movie. You should check it out if you're interested in science fiction. If you like existentialism, it's worth watching. If you like movies with good visual language, it's worth. Would I still have it on my top 4 greatest movies ever list? I think so, honestly. It still is a movie that I really like, that I think is doing a lot with tone, is doing a lot with genre in a lot of ways. It's kind of like, there are bits of the movie that play like a B movie. Some of the dialogue feels like it's being spoken by actors from a B movie. Not the Jerry Seinfeld B movie, the aliens are invading kind of B movies. But so much of it is just quiet, so much of it is without dialogue. It's just looking at these images that are washed in bright highlighter lighting, like oranges and blues and these deep colors, and just sitting with these characters and just sort of like watching them from a distance. Kind of similar to Texas Chainsaw, you don't really get a lot of interiority into the minds of what's going on. You kind of have to assume it on your own. But in this movie, I feel like there's a sympathy for these people. There's a kind of attempt to depict them honestly in a way that Texas Chainsaw doesn't. So for that reason, I'd say this movie is still easily on my top 4. We'll see you again in something wild. Doing construction on my roof. That's what you're hearing. Something Wild is a 1986 film directed by Jonathan Demme, starring Jeff Daniels, Melanie Griffith, and Ray Liotta. The film is about Jeff Daniels' character Charlie, who works in finance. He's sublimated most of his rebellion into his work, but occasionally it leaks through, such as when he steps out on checks during lunchtime. Melanie Griffith's character Lulu picks up on this and decides to take Charlie for a ride, involving some kinky handcuffs. Charlie is won over by Lulu's free-spiritedness and her lack of attachment to anything, and she is won over by his stability. Both of them are wrong about one another, but their wrongness is overcome as they learn to love each other through the turmoil brought by Lulu's husband, Ray Liotta, arriving on the scene and deciding he doesn't like what Jeff Daniels is doing with his girl all too much. Would I put this movie in a triple feature alongside High Life and Texas Chainsaw Massacre? No, of course not. Why would you even ask that? They have nothing at all in common. Texas Chainsaw and High Life are very nihilistic movies. They're kind of about the cruelty of human nature and the ways that we destroy each other. This movie is not really about that. It has Ray Liotta's character, who's a Frank Booth-style psychopath, but He's not really the heart of the movie. The heart of the movie is really Lulu and Jeff Daniels' relationship together. Their animal attraction, but also their chemistry, their love that develops for each other throughout the movie. Um, what I also really like about this film is that there are just so many different kinds of people in it. Um, in a lot of movies from this era, you don't see a ton of diversity, but in this one, you see people of all different skin colors, all different facial features. Granted, none of them are in any of the lead parts, but as side characters, they all kind of show up in there. It's a very textured film. It's very warm and inviting in a lot of ways. There's this one scene that could be a cliche where Charlie runs into someone from the office, and the whole time you're as the audience are kind of thinking like, oh gosh, okay, this is going to get into office antics. It's going to get into, oh boy, but it doesn't go there. Instead, the guy is just really, you think the guy's gonna bust him, but he doesn't. He's just really friendly and wants what's best for Jeff Daniels' character because he knows he's been through a hard time lately. And the movie has a lot of this warmth. There's another scene where a convenience store clerk is very nice to Charlie as Charlie is freaking out in the convenience store and acting all strange and weird, but the guy is just kind of friendly to him. And this is a dynamic that runs through the whole movie, especially the first half, which is very wonderful, I think. It's a change from the kind of thing that you'd expect an erotic thriller to have. There's a romance between the leads, but also a romance with the world. The opening shots of the movie are all shots of New York. There's a lot of bits in the movie in New York, but it takes place all across the country. There's also bits in like chintzy diners, and it's all very well realized Americana. Yeah, so would I put this movie in my top four? I think so. I think definitely. I agree with Roger Ebert's review where he says the first half is stronger than the second. I think that's true, but I also just really enjoy the second half. I think that it's a well done, erotic thriller. If you like movies in that vein, you'll probably like this one. If you like romance, you'll like this movie. If you like stuff about action, you'll like this movie. If you like thrills and chills and everything in between, you'll like this movie. The ending gets a little bit intense, but you're a big boy, you can handle it, I'm sure. Okay, that's everything I have to say, I think, about Something Wild. Next up, we're going to talk about Adaptation, which is a movie that I'm worried, having seen a bunch of times before, I'll be sick of it by now. But I hope not. I hope. Adaptation is a 2002 film starring Nicolas Cage, Meryl Streep, and Chris Cooper. The film was directed by Spike Jonze, but just as significant, it was written by Charlie Kaufman, who, if you don't know, is the writer behind films like Being John Malkovich and the writer-director of movies like Synecdoche, New York, and I'm Thinking of Ending Things, among others. The film portrays Kaufman's struggles to write a screenplay adapting Susan Orlean's The Orchid Thief. Half of the film shows the events of that book and tries to sort of explain to you what that book is doing, and the other half of the film shows Kaufman's struggles to actually write the screenplay of the film that you're watching. It's a metafictional film in that way. Would I keep this movie in my top four? I don't know. That's a tough one. I feel like what it's doing is really interesting. It's kind of playfulness, the way that it becomes an Ouroboros, as the film itself describes itself, the way that it writes Charlie Kaufman into the movie, that Kaufman writes Kaufman into the movie, and it becomes a movie about him as well as about Susan Orlean, as well as about, this nonfiction book about an orchid thief. It's doing so much, and I think that that's part of what appeals to me about it, is that there's just so much to it, and it's so deeply layered. I think that the reason I'm struggling to say that it's great or a masterpiece, even though it probably is those things, is that it does kind of lose me a bit. It's a movie about someone who kind of has a lack of desire in a way, but it's a film that's explicitly about the lack of desire. It's a movie that makes itself about that. And while that's interesting to me intellectually, I guess that I struggle to connect with it emotionally in a way. I guess that it's not juicy enough for me, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's a really great movie. It's just, would it be in my top four? I don't know. I don't know if it would make it to the top four now. I think that there are other Kaufman movies that I like more. I might switch it out for like Synecdoche, New York. But I'd still highly recommend this movie. It's one of those movies that the first time you're watching it, you're kind of going the whole time like, where is this headed? What is this even about? What am I even watching? There are bits of it that show like the origin of the universe and the origin of all life, not the universe, but of all life on Earth. And that's crazy. There are these cutaways to like Darwin and stuff. It's a movie that's insane and contains so much in it. And I don't know, it's a really beautiful film. It's beautiful like an orchid, I guess. It still is a masterpiece, but I don't know if it's making my top four, unfortunately. I don't know if it's quite... It's a great movie, but I guess it's not good enough for old Nathan. Would it fit in with a double feature alongside, or I guess a quadruple feature alongside the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, High Life, and Something Wild? Not really. I don't think that it really has much in common with any of those movies. What it's doing is so kind of unique and in some ways experimental that it really has nothing in common with those. I can't even really think of anything at all in common with them to say. So no, I wouldn't do that. That's not... Yeah, no, I wouldn't. In conclusion, I guess it's a good movie and you should check it out. And that's, I guess, all I have to say on that. So I guess that's episode 1 in what I imagine might end up being, if I want to stick with this, a kind of longer series. I'm calling it Forefinger because, I don't know, it's called Pointer Finger, and my channel is called Pointer Finger, and that's like my brand, and it has the number 4 in it. It's really no deeper than that. Forefinger, 4 films. I don't know if I'm going to stick with this or not, but we'll see. I'm a little dissatisfied. I think that I'm not very good at speaking on camera yet. I think that's something that comes with practice. Oh, I don't know if it picked up that thump. That was my mom setting a dish down, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll stick with this. I might change the structure from a blog to more of like an essay format, where I can write out my thoughts before I read them on camera, because I'm a little unsatisfied with some of my reviews, if you want to call them that, especially of Adaptation. I feel like that one was kind of weak. But I don't know. We'll see if I stick to this, and we'll see what comes next. I don't know. If you have what you feel is a good letterboxed, let me know, and maybe I'll go over your movies. I guess put it down in the comments and let me know what your letterboxd is, and I can look you up and maybe review your films. But I think that's all. Next time my plan is to talk about Eddington and Ari Aster's top 5 movies. He did 5, not 4. I don't know if I'm going to stick with that or not, but we'll see next time. It'll probably take me a while to watch through whatever movies it is, so I don't know how long it'll be before I make another one of these, but hopefully you'll be there when I do.